Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Sunak's cabinet. It's gathering a lot of interest, but to add a bit of nuance as well, because there's a lot of people saying his appointments have been stupid. Oh, he's made a terrible mistake here. Oh, he's made a terrible mistake there. His appointments are a barrier to competent government, and they are a barrier to the public having confidence in the government, absolutely. But the decisions were not stupid. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in Sunak's public address yesterday, he seemed to push the idea that his government would be guided by integrity and competence. Pretty big themes. Then he appointed Gavin Williamson, Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman to senior roles in government. All of them have been exposed as lacking in integrity, and they're not exactly known for their achievements either. A Prime Minister wishing to form a government based on integrity and competence does not have these three individuals anywhere near it. People are saying, big mistake on Sunak's part, he's going to regret this. But actually, it's not a big mistake at all. Take the most eyebrow-raising appointment, Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. It's true that Braverman especially is capable of causing Sunak major headaches, and she probably will. But that does not make her appointment stupid. Let us consider the alternatives if he hadn't appointed her. But first of all, bear in mind Sunak did deals during the leadership contest. Braverman backed Sunak later on. And this will definitely be as a result of an agreement to make her Home Secretary again. So if Sunak hadn't struck that deal, Braverman wouldn't have backed him. So what would have happened without the deal? Well, first of all, Braverman could have shifted her support to Johnson. That may have been enough to get Johnson across the line. I know he claims he did get across the line. I don't believe it. So that could have been enough. And if it had have done, he would have won the contest. It's widely believed that Johnson would win over party members. We do not know if Braverman could have given Johnson enough support, but it was clearly a serious risk and a risk that Sunak could not take, because if he'd have taken that risk and Johnson had got the numbers, that's it, Sunak's not Prime Minister. Second thing, so Johnson, we know, crashed out of the contest. So let's say Braverman had backed him, but it wasn't quite enough. Johnson crashes out. Braverman could have transferred her votes to Mordaunt. Mordaunt was reported to be only a few short of getting the 100 nominations in the end. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, Braverman could absolutely have forced the membership vote between Mordaunt and Sunak. Again, good chance Sunak would have lost the vote. Basically, Rishi Sunak was the pick of the MPs, but considered to be able to lose against anyone in a runoff against members, because it's believed there's a fair chunk of the members would vote against Sunak just out of spite. The only way Sunak could make himself favourite to become the next Prime Minister was by making sure nobody else got to 100 nominations. Indeed, everyone knows that the reason for this 100 nominations bar in the first place was to prevent a vote going to the members. So he struck deals with as many leaders in the parliamentary party as he could. Hence the questionable collection of boneheads and pirates in his cabinet. But it wasn't a stupid move to appoint Braverman, just unhelpful. Then consider what Sunak wants. If he actually wants to govern, then yes, he's hamstrung himself with some of these cabinet appointments. But as I say, if he saw it as the only way to make sure he became PM, what's better, being a hamstrung PM or not being PM at all? So he will have seen the moves as in the greater good. You know, politicians, both good and bad, fall into that trap all the time. But I don't know why the wealthiest person ever to become an MP in the UK wanted to enter Parliament. I can only speculate. It may just to become the first non-white Prime Minister, secure his place in the history books. If that's all it was, mission accomplished. Doesn't matter what comes next, so therefore it's definitely not a stupid move. He's already achieved it. If he has nobler motives, if he actually wants to do something as Prime Minister, then he may still feel he has time to secure his authority and then change his cabinet. What Sunak has done now in the moment is to get Tory MPs behind him. The reason there are so many on the far right in his cabinet, it doesn't look that balanced, is because those are the ones willing to cause immense damage if they're not included. More of the moderates they don't cause splits in the party for the sake of it. But Sunak will have observed the behaviour of the likes of the ERG under Johnson. So when Johnson was riding high in the polls, they were less of a bother because Johnson wasn't vulnerable then. There was nothing they could do. When Johnson was struggling in the polls, the ERG swooped in and demanded concessions in return for their support. You know, last year, all the talk about triggering Article 16 came as a result of the fact Johnson was looking vulnerable. Earlier this year, the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill came about because Johnson was struggling. He needed the ERG's support. That was their price. Sunak will have learnt from this. He's vulnerable right now. He has to keep them on side. But he may imagine, rightly or wrongly, I think wrongly, but he may imagine that if he can turn the polls around, that will boost confidence in him amongst the entire party. He will then have the authority for a bit of a reshuffle later on. Obviously, this isn't a defence of Sunak, even if he felt he was doing it for some greater good. On no level is the appointment of Braverman as Home Secretary acceptable. For many, her xenophobia makes her totally unfit for being in charge of the Home Office. If you don't care about that, her Rwanda plan costs at least £140 million now that we're about to start a real spending squeeze, £140 million, and doesn't even reduce immigration. Doesn't even do that. It means sending a small number of vulnerable, frightened asylum seekers to a fascist hellhole and then bringing more back from said hellhole. It's a swap. So no impact on immigration at all. Only a massive cost and a massive deficit to our international reputation. But let's say you don't care about the xenophobia or the waste of money or our international reputation. She compromised national security not long ago, deliberately as well, using her personal email to send state files. And if you don't care about the xenophobic hate, the waste of money, the trashing of our international reputation, the threats to national security, do you know what? If you're in that group, I don't think you're a large enough group to win Sunak any seats in the next election. So of course her appointment, if he really had a choice in the matter, would be insane. That is why people are saying, oh, this is a mistake. This is a mistake, he's going to regret this. It wasn't a mistake. If Sunak hadn't struck the deal and then lost the leadership contest to someone else, that would have been a mistake, strategically. And the alternative winner, they'd have done a deal with her anyway. She'd still be in that post. It would have just been someone else's mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a terrible move for the country, for the same reason as all the other terrible moves, for strategic purposes to try and keep the Tory party together. That's the story of the last 6.5 years. Every terrible move by the government is a strategic move to keep the Tory party together. That's what we've gone through all this for, to try and keep those reprobates sort of on the same side. And this will be the game now between the Tories and Labour. Labour need to try and keep Sunak's government under the most intense pressure, because that's the only way they'll crack, under pressure. There'll be an immediate bounce back in the polls. Of course there will. No way of avoiding that, because Sunak will be an obviously more serious Prime Minister than Liz Truss. But Labour just need to start again as they did with Truss and keep exposing the sleaze in Sunak's past behaviour. There's plenty to go on that. I talked about it yesterday. And the folly of his future plans. And the way they do that is keep presenting their own plans that are clearly superior. I would have said Sunak won't give them an easy win like Truss did, but Labour do have the advantage that some of Sunak's cabinet might. Like Braverman, coming back to her, key target for them. As this video goes live, it'll be PMQs, which I'll review later, of course. I'd be mightily surprised if Braverman did not feature in one of Starmer's questions. But for Sunak, it's about the long game. Labour, it's about keep that pressure on, get him to crack. They've still got a shot at a general election next year. For Sunak, it's about riding it out. His plan will be to keep chipping away at Labour's lead. He will hope it's a soft lead due to the lack of probity from Johnson and the reckless actions of Truss, rather than anything that Labour are doing. He will hope to just sound plausible, talk a good game, and that'll be enough to get him through the next year. Then, as we start to exit recession, he'll claim that he steered us through it all and hope to turn what might be a small Labour lead into a Tory lead, ready for the election. He'll also hope that if he can show constant progress being made towards repairing the Tories' reputation, he can start to swap out some of the more useless members of the cabinet. Indeed, his party might demand it. The parliamentary party might demand it. If they see Sunak, who's actually doing really well, but there's one or two of his cabinet ministers letting the side down, they may insist that he gets rid of them and swap them out for some genuinely competent ones, at least ones who are good in a campaign. But that is assuming he wanted to be Prime Minister in order to do something, which he may have done. Like I said, he may just have wanted his name on the history books as the first non-white Prime Minister, in which case it's already done. He can just go through the motions now until he's either brought down or loses the election, then go and sit on his big pile of money like Scrooge McDuck. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.